to Creatively Teaching. If you are new here, my name is Emily, and on this channel, I love to talk about all things teaching related, whether you are an online teacher, in-person teacher, brick and mortar, substitute, all of that. So today we are talking about classroom management and what I do that personally works for me. Keep in mind, right now, I am a full-time substitute teacher. I teach at like 20 different schools, and so my schedule is different every day. I'm at a different school teaching a different grade or subject every day, and yeah, it can be a lot, but I have some really great classroom management tips for you that I think can work really well across the board. Now, typically when I think of classroom management and also the way that I introduce myself and how I handle things, I break it up into 3 sections. So I think of elementary school, middle school, and high school. And I think those are like the 3 main areas where you can kind of have a set of guidelines that you follow for elementary because of the age range and things like that. And then middle school has its own, and then high school has its own. And I think in that way, it really works for me because I do believe that when you treat them according more to what grade they are in, it's more helpful. Just like 5th graders don't like to be treated like kindergartners. So I tried to make it almost like the top grade expectation. So my expectation for kindergartners is what I would expect for 5th graders, even though in reality it can't exactly be that way. My teaching personality is not really treating kids like kids. I definitely take a more mature approach to it, and that's just my personal teaching style. So what I think is the most important part about classroom management is that you need to go into the classroom with set expectations. And I vary my expectations, like I said, elementary, middle, and high school. Now for high school, I wouldn't tell the kids to keep their hands off of each other because typically that's not a problem. But in elementary school and even in middle school sometimes, I have to tell them, hey, no touching each other. That's like one of my rules. So I have it broken down basically pretty simply. Let's start with elementary, and then I'll tell you middle, and then I'll tell you high school as far as my introduction and how I set up the class for success, and then a little bit more about why I choose certain classroom management strategies and why I think they work really well for me and my personality and my style of teaching. So for elementary school, I basically have 3 rules. 1, no running. 2, no touching each other. 3, quiet when the teacher is talking or when I ask them to be quiet. Having these 3 rules, I think, makes it really easy and tangible. And if I see them not following one of the directions, it's not like I gave them 10 rules that they have to follow. Do you know what I mean? Because if I give them 10 rules they have to follow, how are they going to follow all of those? How are they going to remember them all? They can't. So by establishing 3 rules, it's pretty simple. And those same rules go for middle school, actually. Middle school can be really immature in a lot of ways, at least the middle schools that I've taught at, and so I have to keep the same rules with them. No touching each other, no running, and no talking when the teacher is talking, and not when I'm asked them to be quiet. And of course, they still break the rules and stuff like that, but again, I'm only giving them 3 rules to follow, and it shouldn't be that hard. Now, high school, I don't really give them rules at the beginning of class. I basically tell them, hey, this is what we are working on today. This is what your teacher has asked of you. And if you have any questions, please ask me. And then some of them will ask me, like I taught a photography class and some of the kids wanted to go outside and take photos. They were given permission by their teacher to do that, and so they would ask me that and I'd be like, yeah, you can go outside. But typically I haven't had many issues with high schoolers. It's been actually pretty easy for me as a teacher to just kind of sit back, let them do their work, and as long as they're not doing anything crazy, you know, they behave, they're old enough to understand, and I am very respectful towards them, and I tend to receive the same respect back. I'm sure I'll be in a situation where that's not going to be the case, but for now, high school's been going pretty well. That's all I really have to say about classroom management for high schoolers. I really just leave them alone. I don't baby them or make them think that I'm babying them. I'm just there to assist them and help them as needed, and I just haven't had any behavioral issues since I've done that. And I know the high school that I tend to teach at can be pretty difficult. So that's definitely working for me, and that's how I keep that. Now, the middle schools have definitely been the most difficult for me to teach and for them to follow the expectations of the class. And so I've tried to work around with different ways of like praise and reward and things like that. What I love is that some middle schools give us these things called sub bucks. And the one school, it's like a green sheet of paper that kind of looks like a dollar bill. And if the students are making good decisions, they get them. And once they collect so many, they get like a free burger or something like that. I'm not entirely sure, but I let them know about that, and that if they're making good choices and decisions, that I will give them one of those. And of course, you know, like the 8th graders don't really care about that, but the 6th graders and 7th graders, they really like that. Behavioral issues with 8th graders, I really try to find common ground with them. Usually it's because they don't want to participate in what we are doing. And so what I do is I say, hey, I know that you don't want to participate in this, but you are getting a participation grade for today. And I'm leaving notes for your teacher. I know who you are. I know your names. And I do, because I have a list of their pictures and their names. So I've had students lie about who they were, do tests for other students and whatnot. And, you know, that was not a good situation, but let them know that I really want to see them succeed and I want to give them a participation grade for today. So how can we compromise on this? Because I don't want a situation to escalate past the point where I can no longer control it. And I'll give you a very specific example. I was teaching PE in middle school, and there were a group of girls, about 5 of them, and they did not want to walk around the track. And that's what their coach had left for them, and that's what I was supposed to follow. And I let them know that. But they did not want to do that. And so the other person who is substitute teaching was out on the track with them. And I didn't know this, but they had come inside. And then she quickly came inside, told me that they were not allowed to come inside. They ignored her, came in the locker room, and then they were ignoring me because they didn't want to give me their names to leave for their teacher. And I was like, well, what is their teacher really going to do about this? You know, they don't want to participate because they don't want to walk around the track. And I was like, listen, I want to give you a participation grade. How can we remedy this situation? What can I do? And they said, we really want to play volleyball. And I said, okay. And I took them into the gym and I played volleyball with them, because it was now 3-on-3. I played volleyball. I love volleyball as well. And I realized that some people might see it as like I gave in to the students and I shouldn't let the students control me. But my job as a substitute teacher in this case is I didn't want to escalate the situation further. I didn't want to have to send them to the principal or ISS or something like that. I just wanted them to get their participation grade, and we had a really great time, and they were in really great spirits after that. And for me, I consider that an accomplishment, and I'm happy with the decision that I made, and I wouldn't go back and change that decision. But yeah, that's mostly what I have to say about middle school. Let's go back to elementary school. So elementary school is really interesting, I think, because you hear a lot about like taking away recess, taking away minutes from recess. There was a class that I taught today that they were very talkative, and I was very honest with their teacher when she came to pick them up for music class. I'm teaching music today. And I told her, I was like, you know, they were extremely talkative the entire class, and she took recess away from them, at least a few minutes of it. And she said, if you do that to a substitute teacher again, I'm taking away your entire recess, because this was the second time that I have subbed here and the second time that they had been disrespectful towards me. And again, I'm always respectful to the students, especially like 4th and 5th graders. I tell them, I'm like, hey, I want to be a cool teacher and I want us to get along. I want you to have a fun and chill music class. Just do these things that I'm asking you to do and we won't have any problems. And they really respect that, the honesty. I always go over the lesson plan with them. This is what your teacher has for the day, pretty much from 1st grade or 2nd grade and up. I always start the class again with my expectations, and then I read the lesson plan that the teacher left for me, so the kids know what to expect in the day ahead, because they don't expect me and they don't know what I'm going to do and how I'm going to treat them. But what they can know and understand is that this is the schedule we're following for today. So after we do all of that, they have their expectations, they have the plan for the day, they know they can come to me if they have any questions. But of course, I'm still going to have kids that act out. So I really believe in giving rewards to students that are behaving and doing well, because they are modeling for the other students. So I have scented stickers. I have other stickers. Today they had, actually, this was a really good idea, and one that maybe you can get like a little ink pad and a stamp. This one was like, that's why my fingers are red, a holiday stamp. And they get a stamp on their hand as they leave if they did a great job and followed the rules and stuff like that. So using like physical things as rewards. I know in some grades like 2nd grade or 1st grade, At least at some of the schools I've taught in, they have team names for certain desks. So they'll have a group, like 4 different groups with like 4 students each. And then they each pick their own team name and they get points if they're doing well. They have a compliment jar where they get a sticker in if someone gives them a compliment, like, oh, you were really quiet in the hallway. Or if I think that they're doing a good job while their teacher is gone, I'll do that as well. Also, little blue tickets to give out, and they can write their name and it goes in a bucket and then they get it pulled out. I don't know how often, but they'll pull out a couple names and then they get rewards based on that. So having little tickets and things like that, physical rewards, really helps the students to stay on task and to see, oh, this student is doing a great job. And I make sure I say what they're doing. So I'll say, hey, Alicia, I think that you are doing a great job working quietly, and thank you for helping your partner catch up with us. I want to give you this ticket to show that, I think you're doing a really great job and to keep up the good work. The other students hear that, they know the expectation, they know why she received that, and then they start modeling that. And it's pretty great because I didn't have to address the whole class. I also didn't have to discipline the whole class, but they're now focusing in on the students getting the blue tickets. They see me coming around with them. They're like, ooh, sorry, it's a fly. They're like, ooh, I want one of those blue tickets, and then they start behaving better. Another thing that I do is I write the word noise on the board, and then I erase a letter for every time I have to ask them to be quiet when they shouldn't be talking. Once we get to the word no, it means no reward. And this is where some teachers will not agree with this. I don't do no recess. At first, I would threaten with no recess, but I stopped doing that because I think that recess is a time that students really need to get the energy out of their system, and it's really important for them to have. So I won't do no recess, but I might do like no sticker in the compliment jar, or no sitting on the carpet. You have to stay in your assigned seats. Something like that, where it's not like the worst thing in the world and it's not going to make them super bitter. Today in music class, they also passed around a Christmas bear, and I would pass it around to the students that were doing a good job. Or I like having the students decide who else in their class is doing a good job and making good decisions and to pass it on to them. So I really like those physical kind of rewards. I think that they work really well and they motivate the kids, at least in elementary school. So yeah, those are some of my tips on classroom management. I will definitely make more videos about this in the future, but for right now, that's like a very simple and basic way that I go about it. So definitely hit the like and subscribe button for more A+ advice, and I'll see you in the next video.